Hello and welcome to Book Lounge by Libby. My name is Joe, and I'm so happy you're here. If you are new here, thank you for joining us. Today is one of everyone's favorite days of the month where we go and look at the titles releasing in the upcoming month and tell you what we're adding to our TBR. So today we are going through May 2026 book picks and sharing with you some of the things that jumped out at us. Joining me is my friend and coworker, Rachel. Rachel, hello. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Joe. Thank you so much. This was so fun to put together. There are so many books coming out in May. I'm like, how do I choose? So
It's
super fun.
tough. It's
It is.
tough. I mean, even though we get to pick a lot of titles for this episode, there's so many we want to read.
Yes. And I've been in kind of a reading slump. And so
Mhm.
this like kind of reinvigorated me. And
Yeah.
I have a full TBR list now. So thank you for that.
And that's what we want. When you hit those kind of slumps, when you start to do this exercise where you're looking at what's coming out, do you find yourself returning only to kind of favorite genres, or did you also find some things in here that maybe were new or different for you?
So I definitely am returning to my favorite
Yeah.
genres, like for sure. And it also got me down this rabbit hole of like, oh, this author has a new book. Oh, I should read these others by this
Yeah.
person. So that was great. But I will say there are a couple picks in here that I've branched off a little bit.
Okay.
That I think you'd be very surprised by. I'm trying to spread my wings a little bit with what I'm reading. Not too much, right? Like, let's not go crazy here.
Right.
But there's some unexpected choices.
We have to stick in our comfort zone, but it's nice to branch out. I mean, I envy my wonderful guests for episodes like this because you don't I'm confronting myself every time I do one of these because I'm like, "Oh, did I pick the same six style of things again?"
Yeah.
It's tough, but we read what we want to read. There's an influencer online. His name is Shane. He's in the Smosh family of channels on YouTube, and he's a big reader. But he challenges himself. Like every book he finishes, the next one has to be a complete 180 from that book. So he may have just read Calabasas by R.F. Kuang, and then he's going to switch to a romance, or then from that romance to, and I admire that. I don't know if I have the strength in me to do a challenge like that.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes I feel like when I try that, that's when I fall into the reading slump because I'm not 100% interested in it. It's kind of slow going for me. And then I fall out of it and I just let the book sit there. And where if I'm I love romances, obviously, you know that, Joe. If
Yes.
I'm romance after romance, I'm 2 books a week, 3 books a week if I'm going crazy. So I don't know. And also reading, I love reading and it's something I
Yes.
love. And so, yes, there's a point of me where I want to push myself and branch out, but also just do what I love. You know what I mean? Just read what I love and what I enjoy.
I could have a whole conversation on just that. And that might be a future episode once season 3 wraps of just oh, you're a mom. Time is precious. For those of us with busy schedules, for any number of reasons, it can be hard to challenge yourself. How do you go, well, yeah, I want to push myself and get through 5 books this month or 1 book this month, whatever that number is for you. But if you're going to read 5 books, and I know a lot of you might be reading more, but if my goal is 1.5 a week, that we're doing our best. But if you want to read 5 books, you kind of want to read what you're in the mood for. What are your comforts? What are things you love? And so it can be hard to branch out. And yeah, we're gonna have to come back to that. I wanna have a think on that and just have a good thoughtful discussion of what shapes that, because it's weird. It's tough. I mean, there's so much comfort. And we've talked a lot about being seasonal readers. I know I'm fast approaching my season of I want camp stories and horror that only happens at a campground and, folklore and things like that and all of the beachy kind of vibes. But For people who always read something different, I just want to like pick their brains. How do you do it?
Yes, more power to them. That's incredible.
More power to them. So before we dive in, if this is your first episode of Book Lounge, welcome. We put out all sorts of content throughout the year. Consider liking, commenting, subscribing if you're on YouTube and following along on your podcast platforms. And if you're a longtime listener, welcome back. Thanks for checking out this episode. I challenge all of you, listen to our lists. The covers will be on screen if you're watching the video on YouTube or on Spotify. And leave a comment on either platform with what you're adding to your TBR for May from our picks. Or if there's something we didn't cover that you're looking forward to coming out this month, let us know. Okay, I think I said podcaster stuff. Now we can get into the good stuff, Rachel. My first pick is coming out May 5th. This one is this is me pushing my boundaries, but it sounds good. It's called Homebound by Portia Elan. It's listed as science fiction, which is not usually my bag. I find my ways into it. And in my conversation with Kathleen Illustrated, I talked about how like speculative fiction is kind of my bridge usually. So I'm hoping that since this is a queer story, it will help me work my way into sci-fi. I'm always sci-fi adjacent. But this follows 5 lives that are entangled across time by one story of survival and hope, uploaded to a floppy disk in the 1980s and destined to ripple across centuries. It's 1983, and Bex can't wait to get the hell out of Cincinnati. She's 19, blasting her Walkman and hiding from the fact that her beloved uncle, the only person who understood her, is dead. But she has work to do. He left her a half-finished game to complete, one last collaboration to find her way out of loneliness. Little does she know what Bex is making will echo far into the future and shape the lives of a scientist, a sentient automaton, and a flinty sea captain in ways she cannot imagine. All are bound together by their search for connection and by a futuristic traveler on a mysterious mission through space. A novel about our deep interconnectedness, Homebound is a clear-eyed, hopeful adventure into humanity's future and capacity for love. So again, that is Homebound by Portia Elan, out May 5th.
That sounds great, Joe. I think
Right?
it's interesting. And the jacket, the cover
It's
is really
beautiful.
pretty. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has that like romanticized sky, but also the graininess of like
Yeah, like video game texture kind of thing.
yeah. That sounds like a good one.
I'm hoping that like that's my cheater way into sci-fi of like, yeah, light sci-fi. Oh, we've got a dash of time travel.
Perfect. I love it. All right. So for me, I picked Carly Fortune, Our Perfect Storm. Classic, my style. Carly Fortune, I think I've read every single one. This comes out May 5th. So Frankie and George are best friends since they were in 8th grade. Both passionate, impulsive, and headstrong, they've always clashed and come back together. Until now. It's the eve of Frankie's wedding weekend, and she doesn't know where they stand or if George will show up as her best man. Then, at the start of the festivities, in walks George. For one glorious evening, surrounded by her loved ones, Frankie's life is finally perfect. But it all comes crashing down when her fiancé dumps her the next morning, leaving only a note as an explanation. Crushed and confused, Frankie returns to her family's home to wallow. But George has a different idea and a plan for healing Frankie's broken heart. He wants her to go on her honeymoon with him for 1 week to the lush rainforests and misty beaches of Tofino. Frankie agrees, seeing the trip for what it really is, one last chance to repair their friendship, even if it means unearthing secrets and long-buried feelings neither know how to handle, even if it means falling apart for good. You gotta love it. I mean,
You
the classic
gotta.
push, pull, we're pretending to go on this trip for closure, but really we love each other. And then it all ends up perfect.
I mean, and if there is one thing Carly Fortune does, it is like pining, longing,
Yes.
romance. Just,
Yes.
she's going to give you pain the whole way through until you have a resolution.
Yes, absolutely. And like that tension building towards, once you're 2/3 of the way in, and then it all
Absolutely.
comes together for you. And I think I shared this before in a past episode we've done, but I just love how she depicts Canada and like the landscape and just how you can tell that she has a love for the country, and kind of that shines through in her writing, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's unique as well. It's just that kind of like we have such a lovely perspective that, at least for us Americans, we don't usually get.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I am branching out again with my next pick, but still doing it my way. My next pick is Bromantasy by Myra Roche. Apologies if I mispronounced. There are, names. Names are always tricky. This comes out May 26th. The cover got me. And then the first line here: two heroes, one brain cell. I mean, I'm already sold, but let's dive in. Bromantasy is a cozy queer fantasy. I'm all into the cozy fantasies nowadays, about the mortifying ordeal of being known by your totally platonic best friend and the epic quest that might force you to confront the truth. Fellas, is it gay to kiss your best friend while on a quest through the forest you're unqualified for? Juniper O'Reilly is good at only two things: demolishing a pint of mead and finding the perfect skincare routine. Everything else, taking care of the farm, bartering for goods, any sort of manual labor, falls to Juniper's best friend, the absurdly capable, endlessly patient Mo Elmthorne. But when Juniper accidentally volunteers them both for a quest to kill a fearsome monster, he knows he's finally gotten in over his head. Juniper hates camping, he hates the dark, and there's no way all these foraged mushrooms are going to sit well in his stomach. One thing he doesn't hate: how good Mo's thighs look in his questing pants. He doesn't have time to think about that, though, with a monster to hunt and their futures on the line. But monsters come in all shapes and sizes. When Juniper and Mo realize the terrifying beast they've sworn to kill is just a scared little girl torn from her family, they're off to find not only the true villain of the story, but maybe even a happy ending. So again, that's Bromantasy by Myra Roche, out May 26th.
Sounds great.
I
It's
mean, come on.
They're both on the horse and the cover of the book. Like, it's so
Incredible.
cute. I love it.
I really fell into cozy fantasy with Travis Baldry's books, the Bookshops and Bone Dust and Legends and Lattes series, and with Spell Shop, Sarah Beth Durst. Like,
Yeah.
just that kind of, I don't need high fantasy. I don't need much fantasy. I just like the kind of like gently transported, and there aren't really stakes. I don't know. There's something about me that like fantasy without any stakes works really well. And so just make it like online humor, silly gay. I'm
Love.
sold.
I love it. A little magical. Not too much. Just a little.
Just a touch.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So my next pick is A Parade of Horribles by Matt Dinniman. Talk about words. That one is a tongue tie for me. I have trouble pronouncing that one. And this is really out of my comfort zone. Okay. So this falls into the lit RPG realm, not typically what I read, but this is the talk of the town, Joe. I have heard so much about this Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and I'm like, I have to know. So this is on my TBR for May, and I cannot
I
wait.
love it.
Okay. So off to the races in this explosive 8th book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. As chaos and mass panic spread outside the dungeon in the wake of faction wars, Carl and Donut find themselves on the 10th floor, where they're forced to compete in a surprisingly normal set of tasks. Well, normal for the dungeon. Races. Get from point A to point B and don't come in last. After each race, they pick up an upgrade from a vehicle and the track gets more challenging. It all seems a little too normal, a little too simple. Ignore those strange glitches that are occurring with increasing frequency. Don't listen to those whispers about what's happening on the mysterious 11th floor, something that the system AI calls a parade of horribles. Nobody, not even the showrunners, know what that means. Just that the AI has ominously dubbed it a coming out party for the ages. Everything is fine, Crawler. I repeat, everything is fine. Carl hates that it's business as usual. The rules of the floor have taken away his agency. that just will not do. So Carl is planning a party of his own. It's a plan so dangerous, so insane, he can't even consult his friends, lest the AI put a stop to it. Because if it goes wrong, it's not just the end of Carl and Donna. No, the stakes are higher than they've ever been.
You said this is the 8th book,
The 8th book.
and the series started in 2020.
I mean, these are coming out fast.
The week that this is coming out, Monday's episode was a conversation on book cover designs, and we had Ryan from Podium, who puts out the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. And if you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to it. It's fascinating. But he talked about how these book jackets alone were the most surprising change for that we've seen industry wise. I mean, the covers are so different, and it was their big success moment, but also just generally it's really shaped trends that we're seeing going forward for what jacket covers are going to look like.
That's so interesting because although Lit RPG has been out there for a while,
Yeah.
it is
This is the one that kicked off. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool to see that it's leading the way in that genre. And I'm interested to see how covers change moving forward in the same vein. Yep.
Definitely. Oh, well, let's see. What do I want to pick next? I'm looking at my list here. I don't quite have a comp for a Dungeon Crawler Carl book, but I will go with some horror romance humor. That's similar. This is Until Death by Mary Berman. This will be out May 19th from our friends over at Little Brown and Company. This is billed as Say Yes to the Dress meets Rosemary's Baby in a fresh, darkly funny horror novel in which a woman finally agrees to marry the man of her mother's dreams, only to discover that wedding planning will eat you alive. If Ophelia Cohen learned one thing from her parents, it's that getting married is a bad idea. But if she's learning anything from her widowed mother's dementia, it's that dying alone is worse. So when she meets Luke, the man of her mother's dreams, marriage suddenly doesn't seem so crazy. But none of Ophelia's obsessive scrolling on wedding forums can prepare her for the nightmare of planning her own. Why is her mother-in-law going crazy over every detail? Why is Luke's family so eager to host the wedding in their vineyard's ancient chapel? And what exactly will Ophelia have to sacrifice if she and her mother both hope to survive her special day? Shot through with wicked humor, pitch black horror, and unexpected romance, Until Death is a deliciously dark and funny send-up of the wedding industrial complex and a mother-daughter story unlike any you've read before. So again, that is Until Death by Mary Berman, out May 19th. I put myself through college by planning, by working wedding events. So anything that's kind of like a send-up of the wedding industrial complex, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, you can completely relate to that whole industry and storyline for sure.
This is also kind of giving me that, what is it, Ready or Not? Yeah, Ready or Not. And Ready or Not 2 just came out. It's the one where they play a game on the wedding night and it's like hide and seek. The movie came out a while ago and part 2, the second one just came out recently.
Yeah.
So it's kind of giving me that. I love the movie, so I'm ready to see how this compares. Also love that mother-daughter storyline and the complex dynamics of dealing with someone in your life with, an illness that's taking them away from you slowly. So I think there's going to be a lot of really beautiful layers in here. And I love that intersection of horror and humor.
Yeah, I love it. It sounds like a great pick.
I'm going to get you to be a horror reader with that one alone, Rachel. Even if it's just one.
I feel like that could help me.
That one might bridge. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm doing more thrillers, so that's kind of
proud
my
of you.
way to horror.
Happy to see it.
And my next one is actually a thriller. It's a Nora Roberts, The Final Target. That comes out May 26th. And for this one, he showed up at Arden Bowie's debut author appearance with a copy of her novel and an eager smile. He showered her with compliments, got her autograph, and then came to her next event and the one after that. Dustin was just an aspiring writer who wanted advice, Arden assured herself. But after giving in to one of his incessant invitations and chatting with him over coffee, she discovered that ignoring her inner alarm bell had been a terrible mistake. An introvert at heart, Arden had long craved solitude. But now, after a harrowing assault, she finds herself hiding behind locked doors and startling at every sound. And her relief at his imprisonment is tempered by anxiety when Dustin's wealthy mother helps to get him a 5-year sentence at a psychiatric facility. Arden decides to write a new story for herself, moving to a tiny Oregon town and debriefing Gideon, an ex-LAPD detective. But while she learns to thrive, Dustin remains his delusional, twisted self, as fixated as ever and now seething with anger. He still believes Arden's purpose on Earth is to serve and please him, and his job is to protect her. But who will protect her from him? So it's your classic good guy turns bad and, are you ever safe type feeling, like even after he's caught and detained, like, are you ever safe? Can you live a normal life type feeling that I think is really interesting and scary for all of us because this is so real and could, be you or someone you know.
And we see more and more in the news, the psychosis and the just like switch up where people seem like something snaps and they seemingly change overnight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how many of those murder shows do I stay up way too late watching every night? You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
And so it just feels really close and is super creepy.
I also will say, like, Nora Roberts, what a name. Like, in the game still. So, I've been doing this podcast thing for a little bit. But gosh, back in my early days, when I was in high school, shelving books at the library, there were countless Nora Roberts books coming in and out across all genres and variety of topics. And I think she's one of the people that I'd still love to talk to, that I'd love to just sit down and interview and be like, how are you, girl? What's going on?
Have you?
How do you do this? I have not.
Oh my gosh.
Now that you've said that, I'm like,
You need to get her on the show, Joe.
Just have a random Nora Roberts chat, because why not?
Yeah. I will say, I'm reading Hidden Nature right now by Nora Roberts because I was like, I want to get ready for this podcast. And so it's so fast moving and just so captivating. You know what I mean? And I cannot wait to read this next one.
Have you read the Ghost Bride ones?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, my best friend's mom, Gina, hello, shout out. I know you might be listening. Loved those.
Okay. It's on my list now.
I mean, longtime school librarian. She's got good taste.
Yeah. There you go. They all do, right?
Yeah, they all do. Listen to your librarians and thank them. If you pop into the library, say thank you to a librarian. My next pick got me because of the cover and the font. It's Body Count by Cody Crawley. It comes out May 5th. It is a YA horror novel, and the font is that very like late 70s, early 80s kind of like TV show font. Motel keys, blood drips. I'm here for it. I am who I am. I'll just get into it. 3 wishes, 1 prom queen celebrating at the Jersey Shore, and 1 monster who will keep killing until her wishes are paid for. From the virally popular author of Here Lies a Vengeful Bitch, a queer feminist YA horror slasher novel perfect for fans of You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. 7 years ago, Sunday Valentine made a deal with a monster she met at the bottom of a motel pool. She didn't know the wishes he had offered had a price, or that the 3rd wish, the one she still hasn't made, will cost her her life. Back then, she barely escaped Wildwood alive. Now, the cheerleaders and football players are headed to the Jersey Shore for prom weekend, leaving Sunday no choice but to return to the scene of her sun-bleached nightmares. Sunday tries to forget, throwing herself into rides on the pier, the tequila-fueled dance parties, and the guitar-strumming girl she can't quite look away from. She hopes the beast has forgotten too, but there are eyes like silver coins watching from the shadows, and teeth like a rusty saw glinting in the light of the boardwalk. Because Sunday still owes a debt, and whatever it takes, whoever he has to kill, this time the monster's determined to collect. So again, that's Body Count by Cody Crawley, out May 5th. Rachel, did I not say earlier that we were coming into my season of exactly this?
It is your season. I mean, prom, it's like the perfect time
Uh-huh.
of year. And you're so right about this cover, Joe.
The
I was
cover.
like vibing Stranger Things in this, like as soon
Yeah.
as I saw it. And it's like a
Mhm.
pink version of Stranger Things. I'm like, yes, you nailed it.
Um, I, I've mentioned on the show that like my boyfriend and I, he's getting me to watch shows and movies that I've never, because I've famously never watched anything in my life other than Charmed and Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So so like we're working through it. We just watched all of America's Next Top Model
Oh,
and the documentary.
okay.
Oh boy. And now we're on Buffy the Vampire Slayer because, famously, the two shows I've seen, like, bookend Buffy, and yet never, like, clearly I'm primed for it, but I never watched Buffy. So we're watching that now. And this also has so much of that, like, Buffy energy, at least from the I haven't read it yet. Remember, these are all books we haven't even touched. I loved You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. And so that comp being in there as well really just speaks to me. And again, like, once May hits, May into June, I'm jonesing for like this kind of teen slasher, teen horror,
Yeah.
anything that feels like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream. Like it's to me, it's kind of like my end of the school year kind of pick.
Yeah.
So I'm so ready for this.
And like those summer vibes of like
Uh-huh.
late summer evening, watching one of those films, reading a book like this.
Yes.
It's nostalgic and it brings back that feeling.
Yeah, I know I talk a lot about like seasons of reading, but to me, there are things I always used to. There was one series I always used to reread at the end of the school year, um, and while I don't do that anymore, there's still like this energy of when I can find new things rather than rereading some like old favorites, it still like hits that part of my brain of like, yeah, I'm going into summer and the year is this, like we don't have summer break unless we take vacation.
Right.
But, there's still something that's nice about like that helpful transition for my brain to put me into the next mindset.
Yeah. I
And I think you definitely get it because you and I both work like a year at a time when we're looking at calendars for things. For those of you who are meeting Rachel for the first time today, she works on our North American Public Library marketing. She leads the charge for a lot of what we do, and we help to shape how libraries are sharing things with you all as well. And so in a few short weeks, you and I are going to be thinking about back to school and fall and the holiday season.
Yeah.
And we'll very likely be in the thick of summer reading. So it's nice to have like these touch points of like, remember what time you're in.
Oh yeah. I could not agree with you more, Joe. Like we're already thinking about the end of the year, right? And
Mhm.
so having these books like bring us back to reality, be like, it
Yes.
is April. You you are good. No,
Right.
and it does. It reminds you of, that young time in your life
Yeah.
and kind of just rejuvenates you a little bit.
Yeah. Healthy dose of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like just enough.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What's next for you, Rachel?
Okay, so my next pick is Caller Unknown by Gillian McAllister.
Yes.
Have you
This was almost on my list
Oh,
as
was it?
well. And
Okay.
so I was like, perfect. I knew you would have it.
I did too. I mean, it's in my thriller genre, right up my alley for that. It comes out May 5th. There's a lot of titles coming out May 5th, I've realized.
So it's a
Um,
good it's our pub date for the month.
yes, for sure. I'm gonna be like, bye, not talking to
Overloaded. Yeah.
anyone.
Bye. I'm set for the whole month now.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So there is nothing that Simone won't do for her daughter, Lucy. The two have always been close, and with Lucy about to leave for university, they depart the UK for a vacation to Texas to spend some quality time together. But when Simone awakens on their first morning in the desert, Lucy is gone, missing from the rental cabin. In her place is a cell phone, and a voice on the other line issues a shocking ransom demand. Don't tell the police, come to this location, and be prepared to do a deal. Simone's husband urges her to bring in the authorities for help, but she knows she can't take any chances. The kidnappers might kill Lucy if she tells anyone. No mother would take that risk. Instead, that night, she drives to an isolated meetup. What she finds there changes everything. The mysterious kidnapper doesn't want money. They want Simone to do something, the unthinkable. A catastrophic chain of events is set in motion, with chilling consequences that extend beyond Simone for her family. What follows is a heart-pounding journey through the small town and punishing deserts of remote Texas, in which Simone's courage and morality is pushed to the brink as she discovers what it truly means to be a mother. Okay, so Joe, as a mom,
that was like my first question for you is like, how are you reading this as a mom?
and like, so I obviously would do anything for my kids. And
Yeah.
like, when it comes to trading money for my kids, no question. It's like,
No
yes,
question.
100%.
Yeah.
But then you add in all of this morality, all these morality layers of like, could you be hurting somebody else's children versus, and it just is a, a mind game there. And it really makes you think about life and you as a mother and what you're willing to sacrifice or
Yeah.
as a parent. And it's interesting. I'm actually really, really looking forward to this.
It sounds fantastic. It also sounds like it could be a wild exercise to have to go on. Cause like, right, that whole like the trolley problem basically of, yes, of course you do anything to save your kids, but are you also willing to put someone else's children in the same position? And
Yeah, I know. I have a feeling, sometimes you get into a book and it's just like one thing after the next, and it's just
yep.
like crazier than what just happened.
Yeah.
And you're like, how did we get here? I have a feeling some of that will be in
That
the
it's gonna be
title.
this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I love it. Like, I can't wait.
I still don't know how you do it. I guess everyone here knows I love horror, but I can no longer do horror that has to deal with like children. Just with, yeah, and I'm just an uncle. Like there are now certain things where I hit the point of like, and this one's gonna have to be a no from me. Depending on what's happening. Like
Yeah.
The Exorcist kind of toes the line of, I don't really need a possession story about a poor little girl and her family going through this, but like that feels like my cutoff some points. But
Oh, absolutely. And it's more than like horror. Like
yeah,
sometimes it
that's the
just,
thing where like the danger, the evil is real people. That's why I'm like, I'd be a wreck.
yeah. It is. I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, I'm
Yeah.
all torn up inside over this book, and you know what I mean? So,
That's where you
yeah.
have to have like Carly Fortune on deck for right after. So you can just be like, okay, now we have something heart wrenching in a different direction.
Yes, exactly. That I
Or
know
y-
will end up great.
exactly. Or you have one like my next pick. I love a cozy mystery. I I love the cover design. I love the titles in most instances. They're usually like punny. I love like the general just kind of play of it. So this is Murder Most Delicious by Danielle Postel Vinay. This will be out May 26th, right at the end of the month. I love this cover. I love this energy. And I love like I'm thinking of things from the past, like the Crime Brulee Bake Off and the Golden Spoon, like anything that kind of has that Great British Bake Off kind of energy as well. I don't think this will be exactly that, but I think this could be quite fun. So we're in Paris, where murder is a dish best served with chocolate eclairs. Starting over in Paris was supposed to be the opportunity of a lifetime for American sommelier Olivia Beach, until her dream job ends in murder. Once a rising star in the wine world, Olivia was one of a handful of women in the world to hold the distinction of being a master somm before COVID stole her sense of taste and her career. Adrift and depressed, she gets a second chance when beloved celebrity chef Jacques de Bizet invites her to Paris for a job interview. But as the interview begins, he collapses, poisoned, making Olivia the prime suspect. Olivia is in trouble, but she has an advantage. Her extraordinary nose is still sharp enough to detect the subtlest of scents, including the poison that killed Jacques. Olivia knows she's innocent, but how can she prove it? Enter the Paris Neighborhood Watch, an eccentric circle of locals determined to protect their quartier. At the helm is the mysterious Auguste Dupin, a brilliant but agoraphobic detective, aided by her intuitive British short-hair cat, Chateaubriand. Olivia and Augusta join forces with a group of neighborhood amateur sleuths, a patissier, a cafe owner, a part-time librarian, a florist, and a kind-hearted cop who may be falling for Olivia to solve the crime, a search that helps them find not only the killer, but fresh purpose in their lives. Warm, witty, and brimming with food, friendship, and intrigue, Murder Most Delicious transports you to a cozy Parisian neighborhood where the comforts of French daily life soothe the soul, even in the darkest times. So that is Murder Most Delicious, Danielle Postel-Vinay, out May 26th.
Joe, you did great with that friend. I don't think I could have done it. You nailed it.
Well, I have a lot of years of French under my belt, so I hope so. It was more just the like, oh, we're choosing to use every other French word in there, totally fine. The fact that they chose like one random one so in the middle where like an English word would have done was more, I think it was me being judgmental more than anything else.
I love it. That sounds really cute and just kind of like a fun, loving,
I
friendly
love
story.
I love books that have cozy before the other element, like cozy mysteries. I think the same way that with romance, you can find the like paperback at the grocery store checkout variety all the way to the Carly Fortune. Like there's a whole dynamic. I love that mystery has the same thing, and like cozy mystery especially. You can have the like very corny all the way to this is almost just a mystery. Like, you know,
Yeah.
maybe I just like low stakes.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong.
I want to be
All right.
comfy.
Yes. Well, low stakes. I think my next pick is a low stakes title, The Shippers by Catherine Senner, and this comes out May 19th. After a whole lifetime of being bad at love, JoJo Burton decides to solve her intimacy issues once and for all at her sister's destination wedding on a cruise ship. With the help of a little pop psychology, she diagnoses herself with the fixation on the neighborhood guy who was her first crush and first kiss, and who just so happens to be newly divorced wedding guest. And she decides to woo him during the cruise for some long-delayed closure. Only problem is her sister's a little busy being a bride at the moment, so JoJo ropes in her childhood bestie, Cooper Watts, to be her wingman. Cooper, who RSVP'd no, but then showed up anyway. Cooper, who left town without a word for 4 years and moved to London. Cooper, who, if she's being honest, is the worst heartbreak of JoJo's life. It's bliss for her to see him again, but it's also agony too. And the more they team up for Project Conquest, the more she obsesses over questions she can't bring herself to ask. Shipboard antics ensue, and this witty, heart-tugging childhood friends to lovers romance as JoJo and Cooper fake flirt, slow dance, share cabin, sing duets, treat sunburns, get jealous, rescue each other over and over again, and finally, at last, figure it all out in the most blissful, swoony, romantic way. Again, another wedding theme, Joe, for you.
It's wedding season.
Yes. There you go. So just your classic Catherine Senner, enemies to or friends to lovers type romance. And it's just a sweet story.
I think we all love Catherine Senner. I think she's incredibly popular. Like, the covers are always beautiful. I think the concepts are fun. When you are looking for romance, what do you lean into? Or do you have some favorite tropes? Do you just kind of read any romance, or are there things you shy away from?
I would say enemies to lovers. I love that tension build, a slow burn. I mean, we all know they're going to end up together in the end. I know that.
If it's a true romance.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And it not always, but like it's reassuring to me that I feel safe in the story and I kind of know what's going to happen. And there's something comforting about that. But yeah, I mean, I typically look for that slow burn, enemy to lover type story.
Fun. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. It also is very telling because like the TV you and I were watching growing up, that was like every like male-female lead dynamic was slow burn,
Yeah.
some sort of like will they, won't they? Maybe not necessarily enemies to lovers always, but it was a lot of like black cat. Uh, I don't remember all the words that people actually use, but like the golden retriever, sunshine, whatever. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
people know what I'm talking about. But like grumpy sunshine, that's that. I pulled all parts of like several tropes into one.
I was like, wait,
But like
where's he going with this?
I got there. Grumpy Sunshine.
You
That was
got
kind
there.
of like we didn't quite have enemies to lovers, but we had a lot of like slow burn Grumpy Sunshine.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Well, my next three picks, which I'm not going to do all right now, but like we're entering my brief graphic novel part of my list because if it's not teen slasher come this time of year, it's graphic novels. Those are like my two big pulls, but also just like lots of great things coming out. My first pick, this is for any of you who would like a juvenile graphic novel option. Um, Again, I think books are for all ages. So, it does not matter if you want to like read a juvenile as an adult, but I think there are some helpful things in there. This is Opting Out by Maya Kobabe and Swati Lucky Srikumar. Maya teased this on our graphic novel episode in season 1. They were working on it then. This will be out May 5th from our friends over at Scholastic. And of course, it's from the award-winning author-illustrator of Genderqueer and a bright new talent, the story of a kid named Sachi, who is navigating friendship woes, sister issues, a new crush, and a resistance to blue and pink binaries. Bodies are the worst. I wish I didn't have a body. Sachi is a storyteller. At school, she's surrounded by kids she's known forever, including her best friend Lila, who shares Sachi's love of fantasy novels and creating new worlds. But as 7th grade starts, kids are changing. Suddenly, it matters who you like and if you can find a boyfriend or girlfriend. Even Lila seems more interested in hanging out with her new boyfriend than in writing and drawing with Sachi anymore. Sachi's not interested in any of that boy-girl stuff. Why can't things just stay the way that they were? Sachi also doesn't love all the ways her body is changing. What if she doesn't feel like a girl or like a boy either? And in a world where there is so much either or, Sachi is going to need to find her own options and create her own story. So again, that is Opting Out by Maya Kobe, out May 5th. I think stories like this are super important, either for, if you're a parent helping your child navigate this, like strange and terrifying world we live in, but also I know I talk a lot about healing your inner child, finding the books that we needed then, seeing them exist now. But also, I have no doubt that this is going to help someone who is just full-blown adult working their own way through this journey as well. I think everything translates up. So does not matter that this is aimed at kind of like that, early middle school audience or like written for that audience. I think if you need this book is going to help you. So
Well said, Joe. I mean, perfectly put. And I mean, it being a graphic novel too
mhm.
opens the doors for other children that may not have read your typical chapter book. So
Exactly. I think graphic novels are a really interesting way to approach this kind of conversation because I think it's so easy for things to get clinical or too dense. And I think that's a barrier across the board. Like I think it would be a barrier for me just now. I'd be like, I don't want to read all that. So like compelling narrative story with kind of like that helpful. I think it's useful.
yeah, love it. All right. So my next one is also out May 5th. It's called Good Joy, Bad Joy. And I just want to call it Good Boy, Bad Boy. I'm like, words, Rachel, words.
I'm
And
looking at your list and I can tell you that I read it as good boy, bad boy.
I may have written it that way.
You didn't. You wrote it correctly, but my brain went good boy, bad boy.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, pull it together. This is by Miki Brammer. And again, this is a little out of what I typically do, but it's kind of like a friendship story. And I honestly want to read this one with my mom. I feel like we would love this together and it would be really fun to talk to her about. So this is a good one for that. So for over 80 years, Joy Bridport has played by the rules. She's been a devoted wife and mother, contributing to her community in a small Hudson Valley town. But her quiet existence is jolted when she learns that her best friend Hazel only has months left to live. Hazel has always been the more adventurous one of the duo, and she seemed at peace with all that she squeezed out of her long life. Yet Joy realizes she can't say the same. Determined to live boldly and to make the most of their time that she and Hazel have left together, Joy steps outside of her comfort zone and into a bit of trouble. But as her foray into rule breaking escalates into committing petty crimes, Joy must consider what kind of legacy she wants to leave behind and whether there's a way for her to embrace the liberation of bad Joy offers without losing all that she holds dear. So, staying true to yourself, but also living a little bit and breaking through the lines and through the box, I think is, just a fun story to see how an 80-year-old does that. And that
Yeah.
it's not too late. You know what I mean? And you can always kind of live for yourself no matter what the age is.
Find fulfillment whenever. You just have
Yes.
to like be willing to take that risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this will be a big book club pick. I can see a lot of like library book clubs doing this title. I definitely see that. I think you and your mom should read it together. That'd be really fun.
I know. I was like texting her about it before. I'm like, here's the title. And the jacket cover is beautiful. I don't know, that blue really stands out to me. The flowers being upside down is just like quirky, like
Yeah,
putting your life upside down, turning it, mixing it up a little bit. So I think it's a cute pick.
I love it. Very cute. And I also know like just another instance of You're My People because, oh, what is that listed as? Literature. That's why it's on. I'm like, yeah, we don't usually pick this up
Yeah. Yeah.
until it like hits just right.
Yep.
Well, my next graphic novel is Landing in Place by Shireen Hamdi and illustrated by Myra Elmir. This will be out on the 19th. Uh, this is a poignant coming of age graphic novel about an Egyptian American girl grappling with college, her family, and the political realities of her wider world. Anissa is following in her sister Reem's footsteps. She's a freshman at her sister's alma mater. She's on the same pre-med track, and she's inherited Reem's old hot pot, mini fridge, and textbooks. Even though Anissa would prefer to study art, her parents discount that as a valid career choice. The path laid out before her starts to crumble as Anissa feels she doesn't belong, either in her organic chemistry class or among the other Muslim students on campus. When Anissa fails her first semester, she begs her parents to let her take time off to visit Cairo and stay with her beloved grandfather. Finally free to have her own experiences, Anissa begins a journey of self-discovery, and as she bumps up against familial, societal, and religious expectations, she starts to develop her own artistic voice. When she returns to the United States, many of these expectations shift, but she learns how to draw on the love of friends and family, including those she's often at odds with, in order to stay true to herself. So again, that is Landing in Place by Shireen Hamdi and illustrated by Myra L. Muir, out May 19th. I actually think that paired really well with your pick with Good Joy, Bad Joy, because it's the same things of like, we all feel pressure at a lot of different points in our lives. And hopefully either of these can be the inspiration for someone who may be feeling a little stuck to either reevaluate their perspective or make some like helpful choices.
Yeah, absolutely. They're in parallel with each other, and
Yeah.
it kind of brought me back to my, high school,
That
college
time.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, man, okay, I wish I had this title then.
Oh, same. I relate to this completely. When I was in college, I went in, accepted into a 7-year physical therapy track. I was going to leave college with a doctorate in physical therapy.
And
Where
how
are we? Yeah, my
and
second semester, I failed physics. And, like semester 1, I hadn't failed. I had struggled with biology, like just to get through with like a low B, high C. It just like things weren't clicking. It was a lot of math. I'm not great with math. Like, and so when I failed physics, I was just like, why did I pick this in the first place? Because I can think now on like when I was telling teachers in high school, what are you going to do when you get to college? Oh, I'm going to go become a physical therapist. And they all went, you are? And so I had to have this moment where I was like, what am I going to do? What's my next step? Because I'm never going to be better at this. Like my brain doesn't want to work that way. So what are we going to do? And so I went, well, I've always been good at English. So I switched over and I double majored in promotional communications. It's the kind of like advertising, marketing, PR, and literature. And did both of those in the remaining 3 years I had. So it was just that kind of like I needed to make a shift, and I my parents didn't put the pressure on me to be like, you have to do this specific thing. It was just the like, we want what's best for you. So go to college and get a degree because there are plenty of jobs that 4-year degree is the requirement on the list. And so it didn't really matter what I did to them, but I had instilled all of the pressures from society, from being the like AP honors kid that's like, well, some of your classmates want to go become doctors and want to go become engineers and do this and that. What do you want to do? And my answer was like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you.
And you're lucky, Joe, that you got out of that cycle and you didn't just fall in line and force yourself down a path that didn't make sense for you, that didn't work for your brain or make you happy. And you kind of found your calling. And so I think that's unusual. A lot of people
It
don't think
is.
that far.
I'm very lucky, and I think like not long after that is when all the articles and studies started to come out of like the culture shift had also happened. So when I was going into school, like a lit degree would initially have been laughed at. And then like by my second year of college, but my first year focusing on that for my undergrad, there were all sorts of like studies and articles coming out of people saying like, oh, law firms, and like different legal facilities would rather train people with English majors to become lawyers than people who went into it from other perspectives. And so like you started to see these like, oh, okay, my brain works in the way that people want. I just had to find the right fit for me.
Yeah. Yeah. The right path.
So a graphic novel like this really would have made me go, okay.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. I don't have to have it figured out immediately at
Exactly.
18, and
Right.
yeah, definitely. All right, so my next pick is falling in line with my enemies to lovers trope. And The Last Page by Katie Holt, and this is coming out on May 12th. And Ella has grown up at The Last Page, a charming local bookstore in New York City where she now works. Her first kiss was in the women's health section. A boyfriend dumped her in comedy. The owner is like a second father to her and began training her to take over the store. So when he unexpectedly dies and his estranged grandson is left everything in his will, Ella is devastated. Henry doesn't know the first thing about running a bookstore. With his aging mom back in Tennessee, he plans to stay in New York just as long enough to sell the store and then head back home. What he never could have counted on was the beautiful, funny bookseller who loves The Last Page more than any place in the world, and who sees him as the villain who's come to ruin her life. But when it becomes evident that the store is in deep financial trouble and Henry and Ella are both at risk for losing everything, they have no choice but to put their differences aside and team up, despite their very different end goals and the inconvenient chemistry blossoming between them. A bookish romance. How could I
Perfect.
not?
How could you not? The cover is also so cute. Like it's really pretty.
It is. It is. I know. It like got me reminiscing of Book Lovers by Emily Henry,
Yeah.
like all those other, bookish romance that, are
Ugh,
so cute.
they know who they're pandering to.
They do. They do.
Well, my last graphic novel, I still have, another book or two. Uh, the title got me because how can you not? It's called Gay Mormon Dad by Chad Anderson and illustrated by Remy Burke. This will be out on May 5th. All his life, Chad Anderson was told he was broken. He believed with all his heart that being a good Mormon would make him straight, because that's what he was told. Chad followed the prescribed roadmap, mission, marriage, and children, but it didn't make him happy, and it didn't make him straight. For Chad, coming out meant losing everything and starting again. Gay Mormon Dad is the story of one man learning to love himself in a complicated world. This inspiring autobiography unfolds in two parts, then and now, woven together in a way that will hit you right in the heart. Vibrantly illustrated by artist Remy Burke, this moving graphic novel sheds light on the dangers of spiritual abuse and illuminates the path to healing. So again, that is Gay Mormon Dad by Chad Anderson, illustrated by Remy Burke, out May 5th.
I feel like that's another one that
Uh-huh.
kids need to get their hands on and have access to, you know?
Yeah. We need to see it. Like that one falls in like the adult graphic novel range. And I think it's super important for, I mean, across the board. I think with graphic novels, you can always kind of like trust your instincts, like do slight, like, is this appropriate for whatever age group? Like that's all up to your discretion. And nothing stresses me out more when someone asks me, is this appropriate for a insert age here? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Cause I probably was reading it younger than that, but
Yeah. Ask their mom or dad.
ask mom or dad. Oh God, your mom or dad. um, but I think stories like that are super important because so many people we're figuring it out at all ages. Like, you
Yeah.
know, we've found our secret through line here of don't be afraid to unstick yourself. Like I think that's with a lot of our picks. It's just like try it. Worst
Yeah.
thing that happens is you figure out a new path.
Yeah. Like don't get stuck in the rigmarole of life. And, you can always kind of find something else on the other side that makes you happy and is
And
true
I
to yourself.
and I appreciate that the perspective from this one is also the like, in this instance, you do lose everything, or you lose like you're kind of set up to lose a lot depending on what your community believes in and falls back on, and what pressures they're willing to like crumble to or accept and push past. So yeah, I think there's a lot of like very happy coming out stories out there. And there's a lot of very dramatic coming out stories out there. But I think this is one of those that's like a really real portrayal for people that even if you don't have a religious upbringing, I'm sure it's going to capture very well what all of us went through of just the like, my whole world could fall apart. This just happened to be the like, there's almost a guarantee that it will fall apart.
Yeah. 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 Adding that religious component
Yeah,
and community component into it really changes the dynamic.
definitely.
My next pick is The Midnight Train by Matt Haig, and this is coming out May 26th. When your life flashes before your eyes, where would you stop? No one can change the past, but the midnight train can take you there. The chance to relive the moments that meant most, to see the kind of person you really were. For Wilbur, his best days were with Maggie, the love of his life, on the honeymoon in Venice, before he gave it all away. He wishes he could go back and live differently, but to do so risks everything. A magical, time-traveling love story from the world of the Midnight Library. The description to me felt like a poem. Like
Yeah. Yeah. It's
invested in
really
it.
lyrical.
It is. And it made me put myself in the place of the story and really feel like I was part of it and question what I would do. And then they brought it back to the characters of the story. So I'm intrigued by this. I have not read The Midnight Library, and I'm kind of wanting to start there and then dive into The Midnight Train.
It also sounds like, since they're saying it is like in the world of, that you don't have to read one to understand the other. But while you're waiting for The Midnight Train to come out, might as well read The Midnight Library.
100%. Yes.
The real question, though, The Midnight Train, is it going anywhere?
I don't know where the train is going.
I think there's a song about that.
Maybe.
Okay, so for my last two picks, I'm going to be on my usual bullshit. We've got horror for you to end.
Yes.
This first one is Not Your Final Girl by Michaela Randolph. This will be out May 5th, our hot day of the month. You put Final Girl in a title, I'm likely going to pick it up. It's listed as a feminist slasher novel fueled by female rage and haunted by gruesome murders. In this contemporary reimagining of Tess of the Dubervilles, there can only be one final girl. Darcy and her high school friends haven't gathered together in 7 years. After a tragic murder on prom night, the group graduated and never looked back. But when the lakeside cabin they spent their summers in is put up for sale, they reunite for one last hurrah. I'm already so sold.
I know.
I'm like grinding my teeth, like biting at the bars of my enclosure. Darcy hopes it will be an inspiring weekend that will help them all move on from their shared trauma. But Ashley, her biggest tormentor and the group's manipulative, self-appointed leader, is sure to stir up trouble. After a first day filled with jealousy, heartbreak, and unexpected guests, tensions are bursting, and the feud between Darcy and Ashley resurfaces. The reunion takes a sinister turn when a masked killer slaughters one of their own. Cut off from the outside world with death toll rising fast, the terrifying friends turn on each other and uncover long buried secrets. Someone is seeking justice for their past betrayals, and with friends like these, no one is safe in this dark femme slasher for fans of Mayfly by CJ Lead and the Indian Lake trilogy by Stephen Graham Jones. So again, that is Not Your Final Girl by Michaela Randolph, out May 5th.
I mean,
and like those comps at the end, like to hit me with a Stephen Graham Jones and Mayfly comp,
Yeah.
I know what I'm in for.
yeah.
But that whole I'm like, it's like messed up for me to be smiling as it gets worse, but I'm just like, this is going to be what I need.
I love it. It's your summer reading.
This is my summer. Like, you want to join my summer reading club? It's a lot of this.
I love it.
Like, I also find for myself with horror, especially with slashers, even though I'm a big rereader, it's not necessarily something that I find super rereadable. Unless I like really fall into the vibes of the story, it's not what I'm likely to return to. So I'm always looking for what's new, which is why my lists are always peppered with them.
Love it.
And I think I had one more title than you. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. I'm just making sure. I didn't want to skip you.
Nope. You're good.
So my last one, killer combo of title and jacket cover. This is Femme Feral by Sam Bessinger, out May 12th. I really want to pronounce it Femme Feral, but you know. Nat Cassidy, who wrote When the Wolf Comes Home, called this witty, thrilling, and savage. And When the Wolf Comes Home was one of my favorite reads of last year. And then Lauren Bukes, New York Times bestselling author of The Shining Girls, said that this is Miranda July meets Stephen King. So I'm already super hyped for this. But we're following hyper-competent Ellie, thinks she's going through perimenopause, but discovers she's actually turning into a werewolf in this feminist dark comedy debut. The head of a company she started from the ground up, the worried mother of a troublingly secretive daughter, and the wife of an easygoing man who always has her picking up the slack, Ellie is already juggling too much. So it's an inconvenient time to find herself beset by strange physical changes, hair sprouting in new places, running hot, trouble sleeping, losing time, finding bloodstains in all her clothing, and underneath it all, a boiling rage that threatens to disrupt the life she's worked so hard to build. Her doctor diagnoses perimenopause, but it's another 28-day cycle that's taking hold, one that involves fur, teeth, and a not insignificant amount of howling at the moon. And that gifts Ellie incredible strength and speed. Her new power's thrilling as it's releasing the anger she's suppressed for years, especially as it turns out that there are some problems that can be solved with violence. The terrible new hire who is sabotaging her careful plans, the creep who's stalking her daughter. Only the beast within isn't easy to control, and its bloody trail is getting harder to hide. With an obsessive hunter on her trail and a growing fear of what she's becoming, Ellie must find a way to yoke her fury. Wow, missed opportunity there.
Yeah.
A way to yoke her fury before she tears through the people she loves. A deeply gratifying, highly addictive, and provocative read, Femme Feral is an exhilarating expression of feminine rage with a warning. If you swallow your anger, it's sure to come back with a bite. So that final title is Femme Feral by Sam Bessinger, out May 12th.
I mean, there is something comedic about the perimenopause turning into a werewolf, misinterpretation.
Absolutely.
It's kind of hilarious.
Incredible. I mean, and I love that this is listed as horror because, you know, like, yes, I get it. It's like, it's the allegory, but she's turning into a werewolf. This isn't the like, it's all alluding to that. Like, this is not going to be Night Bitch. This is not going to, you know, like, there are comps that we could line up for this, but this sounds like it's so unique, especially the revenge plot of like, this hire at my company is trying to screw up my game. My daughter's got a stalker. Like, I don't know. I think it's the like combo of mother's love, feminine rage, but also like I don't know, as there are so many important stories and like narratives we don't talk about. And this sounds like this is a really great way to get it in front of more people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I mean, perimenopause is not a storyline you hear about often, right?
Right.
And so doing it in this way is interesting
Mhm.
and different.
Yeah. So we'll see. Again, y'all let us know in the comments below what from our lists you're excited to check out and what you are adding to your TBR coming out in this month that we didn't cover. Uh, all those things like comment, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. And if you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, you can email me, bookloungebylibby@overdrive.com. That out of the way. Rachel, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I love chatting with you about this. And there's so many good picks you have. I will expand my horizons with them.
And I will expand mine as well, and definitely picking up some of these romances you've got for me and a thriller or two.
Love it.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us, and happy reading. You can sample and borrow the books from today's episode in the Libby app, or if you're a librarian, find them for purchase in Overdrive Marketplace. Book Lounge by Libby is a proud Evergreen Podcast signature program. Explore more amazing shows at evergreenpodcasts.com. This podcast is produced and recorded by me, Joe Skelly, with editing by Andrew Alonso. Our theme music is High Five by Rex Banner, used with permission. Book Lounge by Libby is presented by the Libby app. Learn more at libbylife.com/booklounge.